Welcome to Podkey Fantasy Football, where projections matter most when they make you uncomfortable. The tricky part about projections is that people trust them right up until the moment they disagree. And in fantasy, that disagreement usually tells you as much about your own bias as it does about the player. At their best, projections are supposed to be a historical baseline, a way to strip out the hot takes and the personal preference and ask what usually happens in this kind of workload, this kind of offense, this kind of player profile. That doesn't make them magic. The claim here is basically that they're right around 8 out of 10 times, which is useful but very far from infallible. The important part is what happens in the other two cases, because that's where managers get tempted to start editing the numbers until they feel emotionally correct. And once you do that, you may be reintroducing the exact bias the model was meant to remove. If your adjustment is grounded in better information, great. If it's just discomfort, you've made the process worse while feeling smarter. There is a fair pushback, though. A projection system is only as clean as its inputs, and if the algorithm is opaque, you don't really know whether it's using stable football indicators, hidden analyst judgments, or noise dressed up as precision. So the right posture isn't blind faith or total dismissal. It's treating projections as a disciplined starting point, then being very careful about why you're moving off them. The clearest example is Mark Jackson in 2019, when Fantasy Pros had him projected as the QB2, and a lot of people thought that was way too aggressive. At the time, overruling that number felt reasonable. Maybe it looked like the model was getting carried away by rushing upside or small sample efficiency. Then Jackson finished as the overall QB1, and the lesson wasn't that every bold projection is right, it was that a model can sometimes capture a path to upside before consensus is emotionally ready to accept it. That's the pressure test. If you faded the projection, what was the evidence? Was it stronger than the model, or did the number just feel too high? This is where projections actually become practical. Comparing them to expert consensus rankings is one of the cleaner ways to find market inefficiencies before the room catches up. If a player projects materially better than ECR, that doesn't guarantee value, but it does tell you where to investigate instead of drafting off vibes. Custom cheat sheets matter too, because not every drafter is solving for the same thing. Some people want discounted floor, others want outlier upside, even if the miss rate is higher. Jake's lower projection bargain hunting and Pat's willingness to chase statistical outliers are both defensible. The key is matching the tool to your intent. Projections can help you build a stable roster or a volatile one, but only if you know which game you're playing. Brees Hall is a good example of where projections can look strong even inside a bad ecosystem. Roughly 260 carries and 47 receptions gets him to about the 600 total yards, which is a real workload signal. The bullish case is simple. Pass catching plus volume travels, even when the offense is mediocre. The caution is also simple. Competition from Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis doesn't need to erase Hall's role to hurt him. If the touch count gets shaved at the margin, the top-end outcome narrows quickly. So calling him a top 15 back candidate if volume holds is well supported. The phrase doing all the work there is if volume holds. Judkins is a different kind of projection problem because the baseline may be cleaner than the context. The confirmed facts are significant. A dislocated ankle and fractured fibula in week 16, plus a rebuilt Browns offensive line that hasn't really played together. Those are not cosmetic concerns. Lower body recovery can affect burst and efficiency even when a player is technically active, and line cohesion matters a lot for rushing success and touchdown equity. That doesn't prove he will struggle. It means any projection that treats health and blocking as basically neutral is probably understating the downside variance. Loveland is almost the mirror image. The baseline is already pretty strong, around TE3 territory, with roughly a 23% target share, which is meaningful volume at a scarce position. The upside case depends less on raw talent debate and more on role expansion. If the Steelers really do widen his route tree, then a line around 80 catches, 950 yards, and 7 touchdowns stops looking like a ceiling and starts looking like a very reachable over. The missing context is that role rumors are still rumors until they show up in route usage, alignment, and play calling. So the argument for Loveland is solid, but it's stronger as conditional upside than as a bankable expectation. Jameson Williams is where projections can drift from role history. About 1,050 yards and 6.5 touchdowns sounds exciting, but he's previously lived around 6 targets a game. For that projection to really pay off, one of two things probably has to happen. Either his target share grows meaningfully, or his efficiency stays unusually high on a role that still isn't primary. That's why the Sam Laporta piece matters so much. If Laporta is fully healthy and remains the central middle-of-the-field option, Williams may still be more WR3 than breakout anchor. Could Dan Campbell and the staff shift the scheme toward him? Sure. But that's the speculative part. The confirmed part is that the historical volume hasn't yet matched the projection's optimism. Rice is one of the tougher projection tests because the numbers, around 100 catches and 1,090 yards, look like a full health, full availability assumption. The issue is that he had a recent knee cleanup surgery, and there are also off-field concerns hanging over the evaluation. We don't need to overstate either one to say they matter. This is exactly where skepticism about AI-driven projections is fair. If the pipeline is opaque, you can't tell whether medical nuance and non-statistical risk are being discounted, ignored, or handled with generic priors that don't really fit the case. So the projection might be right, but the confidence level attached to it should probably be lower than the clean round numbers suggest. Jackson Dart comes with a lot of moving parts. The facts on the table are lingering ACL and meniscus concerns, an aggressive play style that can invite more hits, and a projection that imagines something like a 16-17 start season with roughly 3,600 yards. That's plausible, but the path is fragile. Matt Nagy's history of underwhelming run game output could hurt touchdown efficiency overall, and uncertain receiver health can drag down passing production, even if the quarterback himself is available. That makes the projected passing touchdown range around 23.5 feel especially sensitive to surrounding conditions. The upside exists, but there are several ways for it to come in ordinary rather than special. The useful habit is simple. Trust projections enough to listen, doubt them enough to ask why, and be honest when your gut is just your gut. Thanks for listening to Podkey Fantasy Football. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.